Hi, today we're going to change the fork spring in a CRF 150. For my weight, it also means that a spacer's got to go in, because to get the spring rate you need to run a slightly shorter spring, and it's going to land up lower in the suspension by the amount of the spacer. Which incidentally, while I remember it, I should get it out. That's a spacer, so it's going to lower your suspension by that amount. And yeah, you need some tools. So as you can see, we've got a torque wrench. There's an air gap height measurer there. I've got a 17 and a 14. This is a special tool. You can get away with using a bit of wire instead of this, but we'll get onto that later. And then the other thing is I needed a cartridge holding tool. These are only 37mm forks, and it's very difficult to get hold of a cartridge holding tool for 37mm forks. So I've landed up making one. I don't know if you can see that. That's a castellated top. That is 22mm bit of tube. And these things, which I guessed are around about sort of 8-9mm gap on that castellated top. I've managed to do it, and it's working all right. So if you're an amateur at home and you want to have a go yourself, then, you know, if you're fairly competent, it should be all right with it. Right, okay, so the fork cap, the easiest thing to do is loosen the top of the triple clamp, the top pinch bolt, and then loosen it while it's on the bike. And what we need to do is just take that fork cap off. Oh, that slides down. And then we need my spanner, which was a 14. Right, I need to put that on there. Okay.
Take the cap off.
Right, be careful with this. It's got a compression rod in there. Be careful of that. Make sure that all looks good. Pop it down there. Spring then comes out. It's your standard spring. And what we want to do is empty this old oil out. Let's see what that looks like. Pretty manky.
That's disgusting.
This is a bike I just bought. Whee! Don't want a bit of that.
Oh.
That's alright. Just going to pump that a couple of times, try and get as much out as possible. Look, it's weed up against the wall, Ewan. What's it doing?
You might want to skip the word weed if you're going to put this on YouTube. I don't think it's a swear word. Right, so.
Right, what we have here now is to remove this nut.
That's going to take a while. There.
Remove this bladder. Okay, now we've got to get this bottom valve out. If you come around here, Ewan.
Okay.
We've got to get this bottom valve out, and it's incredibly tight. Now, I thought I got all that muck off, but there's a little bit of back this compression right out.
Some muck in here. I'm sort of giving it a good...
Okay, so I've obviously got aluminium clamps, aluminium protectors on here so it doesn't ruin the fork. Now, this is my makeshift tool, so I don't know if you can see in there. Oh. Anyway, you can just see in the bottom there. Right, we're going to use this to clamp that, and that will hold the cartridge. I'm going to get a pair of mold grips. Okay, this is really tight. This is really tight. They put Loctite on these things, and they don't muck around, so you need fairly good leverage. 14 socket should fit fine. It's making a lot of noise. Right, you've got to be careful because you want that definitely nicely on there. And this is going to clamp this. There we go. Real tight, and it makes an awful noise, and you think, oh, am I ruining this? But trust me, I've done the other one. It's all right. Now, some people have used impact drivers on these. I'm not so sure about that, but I think with the impact driver you can get away with not having to clamp the internal. I don't know, it certainly didn't work with this. I tried it, maybe my impact driver isn't strong enough. It's just a small 12 volt Milwaukee job, whatever it is. There, that wasn't good enough.
And it's very loud as well.
Yes, it's very loud, yeah.
Right, valve. Start to come out. Here we go.
Right. There's a valve that we've just taken out. We can give that a good clean up now that's out.
Ew.
Oh, got a little bit more oil coming out there. Good old makeshift tool did the job. My cameraman has a lot to say. Right. That is your fork internal that's come out. Now what we're going to do is, if you look down there now, that is straight through. Go do the camera through there. That is straight through. You've just, basically we've taken the fork internal out completely, and all we've got here now is the outer, the stanchion tube and the outer.
Wow, that is...
Right, one out here, and I'm going to spray down here. So yeah, as you can see, that is incredibly tight, and amazingly that tool has worked. I wouldn't suggest making a tool. If you can get the proper stuff for 37mm cartridge holder, then do it. We have a little like circlip here, and this is a bit of a bugger to get off. Right, just got to get this little clip off, because then what you're going to be able to do is get your spacer on. So if I unwind that, it'll just come off through the thread. It takes a bit of time. There we go. It's even more fun to get back on. So there's your little clip there. There's the rest of your internal. Okay, I'm going to give this a bit of a use up, a clean up. And then what you're going to do is put the spacer on this shaft. There's your spacer. Now, here's the science behind it. That is obviously the heavier weight fork spring. I'm 85 kilos, so we're using 4.5 Newton spring, which is shortened slightly, and the difference is made up with the spacer. So if you have a look at this here, you have a look at this here, you see that spring that we're putting in is shorter to go with a heavier weight rider, and the spacer, which is here, is going to take out that difference. Okay, so spacer goes on like so. Just going to check. Right, back on. Now we need to get this fun little clip back on. You see that? Okay. Internal goes back in. Gonna clean this up. Incidentally, when you try and take that off, obviously use a torque wrench because I've got more leverage with that. Yeah, just give yourself as easy a task as possible, because as I say, this is very tight. Now, I did want to check the torque setting on when I unwound it, because it's not in the manual that I can find. But I'm going to do this up to like 45 newtons, and I'm going to put a bit of Loctite on it. Right, just making sure that is in place. come down here so people can see what's going on. I've just put my finger in there and then guided that into place. That's the bottom of the internal. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on this. I've got a cake in it, but just a little bit. Be careful, we probably don't want to use too much. Yeah, so I was having a bit of trouble locating that. I had to put the makeshift tool in again. Alright, I'm going to let that whiz round. Right, I'm going to tighten this up, I think to about 45. I don't know what the torque setting is. It's probably not a good thing, is it? That is 45 newtons I've tightened that up to. I'm sure someone will have something to say about that. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to put some oil in there. Now, looking in the book, obviously we've put a spacer in there, so that's going to make a bit of a difference in terms of quantities that we use. So if I look on, obviously the spring we've got, the optional it says is 3.73 newtons. We got 4.5, plus we've got a spacer in. Standard oil level, it says it's going to take 344.5 millilitres. Which I picked in the book. The thing is though, because of the spacer, it's going to take less than that. And I ended up pulling out basically what looked like the amount of fluid the size of the spacer. It was about 40 or 50 mil, I think. I'm going to stick in the 345 and show you what I mean.
So, here's your measuring jug. So that is the 200.
You need to bleed this as well out. Now I'm going to pull this up. I'll put this puppy back on. And what we're doing here is we're just bleeding. The suspension. I've set this to 140. And you'll see what I mean when I do the air gap here. There we go. So that's how much comes out. Mainly because I think because of that spacer. Right, spring. Make sure you put the right one back in, which is a shorter version. 4.5 is. You can use a bit of wire. Or you can do what I did, pull that right up, drop it down and then try and grab it with your fingers if you can. But it's tricky. Now, thing that's a little bit of a pain with these is on like proper superbike forks, you can put this in and it just holds in place. But what I've got to try and do, I've got to try and get it between the spring. And that's going to have to hold it.
With anything.
Let's get that cap on. Then tighten a nut on the fork cap to 19.7. To 19. And then what I would do is just torque that up when it's on the bike. And the torque setting for that fork cap 34 Newton meters for the fork cap, but do it on the bike. Just make sure you only pinch the bottom to leave the top of the clamp loose, and then tighten it up to specified torque. But there is, believe it or not, your suspension done. It's like a pogo stick. Sorted, that's it. Thank you.